Welcome to Front Office Pros. Today, we're going to be talking about anticipating year one to year two players' auction draft salary prices. There was a really good rookie class last year as we look at a lot of these names, Joe, and we're going to be kind of assessing where we think these guys are going to go. Is it too much or too little? Are the cheat sheets lying?
Hike!
All right, Joe. So let's start off with the quarterback position. The guy who a lot of people are really excited about, quarterback C.J. Stroud. Now, Stephon Diggs is a Houston Texan. C.J. Stroud right now, he's regarded as a top 5 player right now in auction prices. You're looking at around a $14. What do you think, Joe? Is that too high, too low? We'll also talk a little bit super flex, but for now, what are your thoughts on the one quarterback league price?
Yeah, I think that could be on the little bit of a low side. I know, especially in one cornerback leagues, it's people don't always prioritize it. But I think $14 is possibly a little too low. I think he's got a chance to go around 20 just based on the buzz on CJ Stroud and getting Stephon Diggs added to that wide receiver room and just coming into his second year. I think he could go for more.
Yeah, I mean, right now you're looking at Lamar Jackson at 21, Mahomes at 23. Do you think it's possible that C.J. Stroud enters into that $20 price tag?
I definitely think it could be possible. I know, he's getting taken pretty high so far in a lot of mock drafts. So it wouldn't shock me if he did go right around $20.
Well, and honestly, even in Superflex leagues, we're talking about him getting only low 20s. I just think this is a guy who's getting more and more hyped. I mean, would you be surprised if Stroud surpasses Lamar Jackson? I don't think he surpasses Allen, Hurts, or Mahomes. I think those guys are the top 3. But I could definitely see Stroud being 4.
Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked at, with Stroud being forward and passing Lamar Jackson. I agree with you there.
So let's talk about another sophomore quarterback Anthony Richardson of the Indianapolis Colts. His season was cut short due to injury. This guy's got a ton of hype going, Joe. Right now for auction value price average, we're looking at around $13 for normal. Superflex, $22. That feels low to me. Your thoughts there?
I agree with you. That definitely feels low. Even though it was a small sample size, I feel like the small sample size has people just wanting more. And especially if you're in a league that plays with 4 points for a passing touchdown, but then gets 6 for rushing touchdowns, he's even that much more valuable with what he can do with his legs and his rushing touchdowns that he was getting in the small sample size. But I feel like that's got everyone craving more, and I feel like his value is going to be a lot higher than that.
I think prior to the draft, you really have to assess, and I know this will be interesting when I talk about this, but you have to be mindful of who you nominate. And what I mean by that is there are some players that I like to kind of keep in my back pocket who I think will kind of sneak under the radar. And then when it comes down to it, I've got some extra dollars that I can allocate and get the player. Richardson's not that guy. You're going to have to pay up for Richardson. Just be prepared to do it. It only takes one other owner in your league to create a bidding war. You don't have to have the whole league wanting him. So I feel pretty strongly you're going to have at least one, if not 2 guys who are going to be saying, oh, wow, Anthony Richardson could be a league winner. You see him a lot in different, whether you watch YouTube videos or podcasts, he's being talked about all the time. This guy, he's got a cannon for an arm. He's got the running upside. He's got guys now. He's got Adonai Mitchell. He's got Josh Downs. He's got Michael Pittman. He's got Jonathan Taylor. I mean, this offense is ripping, roaring, ready to go. So to me, it's like, just know that if you want Richardson, you're going to have to pay up for him. And the reality is, I could very much see, depending on where he's nominated in drafts, he could surpass, in my view, he could surpass a guy like Hurts. He could surpass a guy like Mahomes because those guys are like, oh, okay, yeah, Mahomes, yeah, Hurts. But only, like I said, only takes 2 guys, and it happens all the time where people really like this player, and before you know it, that player surpasses some of the top guys.
Yeah, Yeah, especially if you wait around for Anthony Richardson and he's the last player of a tier and somebody else has been waiting just as long as you have for Anthony Richardson, like you said, it creates that bidding war, and he definitely could go higher than those guys.
And now you're talking about a guy who you were thinking would be a value and could possibly be a league winner because you're paying less than one of these top guys. And now you paid him as a top guy, and now you have to have him be a league winner because if he's not, now you're already falling behind. So that's where it's like nominate this guy early, know you're going to have to pay up, and then once you get him, then you can reassess where else you're going to go. But if you're going to wait on this guy, I think it's going to be a mistake.
Yeah, it definitely could be. Like you said, I could see people getting in a bidding war just because of, like I said, how much people just like Anthony Richardson and want to see more from him.
Are you enjoying this episode so far? Well, if you are, subscribe to our YouTube channel, smash that like button, and hit the notification bell for upcoming videos. We do videos throughout the year, so you're not going to want to miss what we have in store. So heading over to the running back position, we've got running back Bijan Robinson. Average auction price here, Joe, is around $49. That has him third. So Christian McCaffrey and Breece Hall are ahead of him. What are your thoughts on that $49 price? Too high, too low? What are your thoughts there?
I honestly think this one seems to be pretty fair for him. I think there is a chance he could eclipse the $50 mark. I know they've got Breece Hall on here as $54, so I could also see Bijan going into that range, but I think right around $50 is probably fair.
Interesting. Do you find it interesting, though, that McCaffrey, I know this is about Bijan, but McCaffrey's at $70. So, I mean, we're talking about a solid $20 more from Bijan. And Breece Hall, which is the second guy, you're looking at around $15. I just wonder, depending on because I definitely think these three are the top three. Would you say? Like, I think that's a tier right there.
Yeah, those are definitely the top three running backs.
He's an interesting one. I don't know what to read is because again, this depends on your league and how much they keep up on the offseason. Last year, people who thought Bijan was going to be this really, really good player, right? they listen to different pundits, they grab their auction sheet magazines out of the Fantasy Football magazine, and they were really disappointed with the guy. But if they don't know that it's a new coaching staff, it's a completely, the conversations that the offensive coordinator Robinson's been talking about and the head coach are talking about, they're going to feed this guy. So all reports seem to indicate that Bijan Robinson will actually get the role that we expect him to get. So will your league be aware of that, or will people feel like, oh, no, I was burned, I'm not going after that guy? Falcons in general will be very fascinating to watch because all of them, there's this huge bump now with Kirk Cousins. So I don't know what to think about this. I don't know if he's going to go up. I don't think he'll go any down. I think this could be just right. I could think he could also go a little bit above as well.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely, I'd be shocked if he's going below $49 in auction drafts, but there's definitely room for a higher ceiling there. But like you said, it is interesting. I can definitely see McCaffrey going for $70, but like you said, it is interesting to see, those are the top three guys, but then the two guys below McCaffrey are essentially going almost $20 below where he sits.
I mean, personally, I'd rather have Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson over Christian McCaffrey at that price. I mean, I recognize how good McCaffrey's been, but with one injury and there goes your season. Poof. I understand.
You can say that about the other two guys too.
I understand that, but that's a $15, $20 more that you're allocating to the guy. And how much different is Bijan and Breece Hall going to be to McCaffrey? Is it going to be that much of a gap to justify that cost difference?
It could. McCaffrey, man, he's a special player.
I don't buy it. But let's head over to the next running back we're going to be talking about. Running back Jahmyr Gibbs, ranked 7th. His average auction price, you're looking at around $35. Joe, what do you think? Is that too high, too low, just right? Thoughts there?
Well, Steve, I was kind of looking back to last year at our, the auction league that we play in, and he went for 39 in the league that I run as a rookie. So based on that, I'm going to say this value is too low because he was already over that as a rookie and he had a really good year. And the way that last season ended with David Montgomery's utilization decreasing and Gibbs getting more involved, we expect that rise to continue. So I think, he could easily go into the 40s.
Yeah, that's an interesting nugget of you going back in your auction draft and seeing what the results were. I'm with you. I thought it was a little bit low. I mean, right now you've got guys in this group here, Kyron Williams ahead of him. I think Gibbs is definitely going to go in more than Kyron Williams. I mean, you've got the possibility of Blake Corum. There's some ambiguity there. I think Gibbs will definitely go ahead of him. I think Gibbs is probably in the more of the mark around a Jonathan Taylor and a Saquon Barkley, in my opinion. So I'm with you. I think he's a guy who's going to get a lot of buzz. Lions are an up and coming team. People like yourself love watching them. I don't see this guy going for this low.
Yeah, interesting enough, I just saw it in that same league. Bijan went for 55. Just to
See, look at
give
that.
some perspective.
Yeah, that is interesting. So head over to our next running back De'Von Achane, guy who there's a lot of buzz surrounding this guy. Right now, average auction price of $25. What do you think, Joe? Too high, too low, or just right?
$25. I could see. I think that could be, I think that could be a good number because I think there's some people I know like yourself that are weary of this guy, don't really know the amount of opportunities he's going to have. But then there's other people that are just fascinated, kind of like Anthony Richardson, of what this guy can do, and he only needs that one play, and he can make a monster run. So I think $25 is probably pretty fair.
Something I think that we need to make a point of, and we're going to be talking more as we kind of share our projections of what we think is going to happen in this upcoming season. But, you talk about the idea like, well, this player is a bust. I'm not going to go for him, right? You talk about that from an ADP standpoint and Snake Jazz. It's too high. I'm not going to go for him. Any player, depending on the auction price, is a guy who's worth a value. So you can't just say that, oh, well, this guy's a bust. For the right price, anybody is a good value and a good player to take. In my view, this is a guy who I would love to nominate in drafts and get people spending money because the buzz is off the charts for this guy. You're right. I am weary of him because, you got Mostert still there. Mostert did really well. I really like Jalen Wright. I think that he's going to be a really good player coming out of Tennessee. So for me, it's like, okay, they brought that guy in in the third round. What says that Achane's going to get the volume that we think that would justify this price? I think he could easily go into the 30s. Right now, we're looking at Rashad White, Jacobs, ETN, Pacheco. I think depending on the people in your league, I think people could spend even more for this guy. This guy's going to be deemed as a league winner. He's a guy I want to nominate early and let people pay big money for.
Yeah, I mean, just crazy. You see, basically last year in our draft, he was taken as a $1 flyer, and now you're saying his value is already rising up to possibly in the 30s.
Oh, you disagree?
No, like I said, I people really are excited about De'Von Achane. I still question his durability, but there's no doubt when he's 100% healthy, he's just absolutely electric to watch.
I'll tell you this right now. If Jalen Wright's $1 right now, I think he probably goes around there. I'll take him at that price, hoping that he may do what Achane did in your previous draft, last year's draft, talking about someone got him for $1.
Right.
I'd rather do that with Wright and hope it works out than pay 30 plus for Achane.
Yeah, he is a risky player to spend that kind of money on. I think you're probably right there. No pun intended. Right at $1 is probably the better move there.
It's the right move, Joe. So heading over to our wide receivers here. Wide receiver Puka Nacua. Now, this is a guy who most people you might not have even drafted in your leagues last year. You might have $1 or $2 flyer. Now we're talking about his average auction price is $42. Is that too low, too high, or just right, Joe?
Looking at some of the other values around him, Yeah, I think it's probably fair, but I think I think the buzz around Puka and just what he did last year in his rookie year is gonna put him up probably closer to the $50 mark. But I don't think $42 is a bad like starting spot. I think that's pretty fair.
I actually think it's just right. I actually think I don't know if he'll go for all that much more. I guess the question is, do you see guys like Justin Jefferson dropping below because of the murky quarterback situation? We've been talking a lot of these players. We've been talking about we're gonna pay more. You're gonna pay more. You're gonna pay more. Some people are gonna get fair value. Some people are gonna pay less. I think this sounds about right. I don't know if there's enough buzz around Nacua. I think there's probably going to be people who might think, which I'm not one of them. I've been convinced after the playoffs when you and I watching it, I will never turn back. But I think some people might think Cooper Kupp maybe was dinged up. He may come back and be more of the Cooper Kupp we know, and maybe Nacua is not as dominant. I don't think that's the case. I just don't. I think this is about right for Nacua.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad price for him. I just could see, him going. They got like Amon-Ra at 48. I could easily see him going right around there.
All right, so the next receiver we're going to be talking about, wide receiver Jaxon Smith-Njigba, had a pretty good rookie campaign, not dominant. Right now, his average auction value price is around $4. Is that too low, too high, or just right, Joe?
I think that's too low for JSN. I think people are. I think people would be interested in now. I get not everyone likes Geno Smith, and that would potentially put his value down. But I think he's got potential to go, into the. I think he's got potential to at least go into the teens. I think $4 is unrealistic.
Well, what I find interesting is Tyler Lockett is also $4. So, people are thinking, is Jaxon Smith-Njigba, is the baton going to be passed? And now JSN is the number 2 option, and Lockett goes to being the 3rd option, which I do think is going to happen. I'm with you. I'd be prepared to spend up a little higher. Does he go over $10? I'd be sort of shocked. I think it kind of depends on when he's nominated. I think he is a guy you could hold on in your back pocket in hopes for a value. But again, it only takes one other owner who thinks that way, and then you're in a bidding war if you held your money. He's a tough one. I don't know what to make of him. I don't see him going over 10. I'd be kind of surprised if he goes over 10 based on these other values. But he definitely won't go over 20. He's 15, right. I think, is the max.
Yeah. So he went for $8 as a rookie in our auction draft last year. But he was also kind of disappointing. People had higher hopes for him as a rookie too. So it'll be interesting to see how his price does differentiate this year.
All right, so going over to the tight ends now. We've got tight end Sam LaPorta, your favorite tight end, Joe. He, again, was probably a guy who maybe was just a flyer. A lot of people probably didn't spend up too much, didn't expect too much of him. Right now, his auction value is sitting around $27. So he's looking at number 2, just behind Kelsey, believe it or not. Do you think that's too low, too high, or just right?
Yeah, interesting. He was $3 as a rookie. I think it's close. I think depending on how you score the tight ends and whether or not your league prioritizes them, I think this is probably a good spot, especially they've got, Travis Kelsey at 29. You got him a couple of dollars less. That's probably 27 is probably a fair number for him.
I think it's too high. Unless you're in a tight end premium league, I find that leagues don't really prioritize the tight end position. That's why I like tight end premium, because I think then people, they see there's a value in drafting a tight end. There's a level of strategy. Most other people just say, screw it, I'm just going to punt it. Right? I'm not gonna go.
Yeah, but the even in normal PPR leagues, like the top tight ends, people are willing to pay. Like Mark Andrews last year was $25. So
okay, maybe it's just right. I just don't know. Maybe you're gonna throw shots at me here. I don't know if this guy has enough flash in the pan. I don't know. Are people that excited about Sam LaPorta? I don't know. I think
are you kidding me?
I'm just throwing it out there.
He was like the tight end one
I
as a
get
rookie.
that, but he's not. But I think people are more excited about Kelsey or Pitts or a guy we're gonna be talking about coming up, Kincaid. I don't know. I just feel like people are getting more excited about those guys.
I don't know about that, man. I mean, LaPorta was tight end one as a rookie. They don't really have a wide receiver two on the Lions. He kind of is that. I don't know. I think people are going to be excited for him.
Well, let's talk about our last player of the group here, tight end Dalton Kincaid. Right now, his average auction price is looking at $14. I'm going to tell you right now, in my view, I think it's too low. I think they've got George Kittle at 16, McBride at 15, Andrews at 21. I could see him passing all three of those because the reality is where are the targets going to go? Stephon Diggs, no longer there. Gabe Davis, no longer there. Drafted Kincaid in the first round. I think a lot of people are going to think that Kincaid will be the main recipient, which I think is totally possible. So I think people are going to spend a lot of money on Kincaid this year.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I agree with you. I think he's got a chance to go near $20. He in our league he was $8 last year as a rookie. So I think there's definitely a chance for him to get around the upper teens to $20.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, I mean, they have him list. We're saying he's 14. I mean, it's only $5 more dollars. And there's only so. This is actually kind of. It'll be interesting because this is like the deepest. I feel like the tight end's position has been in a little bit here, especially with potentially the re-emergence of Kyle Pitts now that he has a legit quarterback. So curious to see if we see tight ends end up going for a little bit more than we have in years past because it's not just like a top 2 or 3 guys and then everyone else.
So let's talk about our last player here, wide receiver Rashee Rice of the Kansas City Chiefs, a guy who has been in the news for all the wrong reasons during this offseason. Now, for Rice, his auction value price on average right now is $10, ranking around number 36. Do you think that's too high, too low, or just right, Joe?
I think that's definitely too low.
Really? I was going to say possibly too high.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see. I think people are nervous about the legal situation, but once that's determined and there's like a set suspension date, if the NFL is going to suspend him, once you know how many games. But what this guy was able to do in his rookie season and really emerge as the wide receiver one in that Kansas City Chief offense, I think he's upper teen to 20 all day.
Wow. See, I think people get spooked with suspensions. I mean, think about Alvin Kamara last year. I think it was last year he had a suspension, and people were spooked by it. And he came back and played. Was it this year? Or am I misremembering that? Regardless, it was either
he was suspended for 3 games, I believe, last year.
Yeah. So I think it spooks people, to be honest with you. I don't know. They think, well, I don't have him for a full season. So I don't know. I think that it's about right or a little bit lower. But here's one thing I will say about him. I think there are players, and he's one of them, that really no matter when you nominate him, whether early or later, based on the money that's out there, I'm not sure his value changes. Like I think that whether people have money or not, I don't really know if he's a guy you're going to get into a bidding war in. I think people are going to have a pretty set ceiling. Like, I'm not going to pay more for this guy. So to me, if you really like him, no reason to wait to the end to get him as a value scoop. I think I would nominate him early.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt certain play, especially with the uncertainty. Probably better than he's one of those guys. If you are going to take the risk and draft him, probably better off just knowing ahead of time, finding out what are you going to have to pay for this guy, or what is the league putting the value on him. But I think $10 is too low. I mean, Calvin Ridley's going for 17. You got Christian Kirk at 12. I mean, when Rice is going to be on the field, I like him better than those guys.
So that does it for our anticipating year 1 to year 2 players auction draft salary prices episode. Hopefully you found that valuable, and we're just getting started. We're going to be continuing to talk about auction draft prep as we're preparing for those upcoming drafts here before we know it. That's going to be, probably within the next month or so, you might start seeing drafts happening. So we are going to get you prepared for those auction drafts. In our next episode, we're going to be diverting a little bit, but talking about year 1 to year 2 value changes for IDP. You're not going to want to miss that. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.